Hello, brothers and sisters. The title of the message today is Return to the Source of Life Before the Way That Leads to the Cross. Number 2, Resurrection and Life. Number 2. Paul said in Romans chapter 6, if we have been united with him like this in his death, we will certainly also be united with him in his resurrection. Like this in his death, this is a very specific and important word. United with him like this in his death and united with him like this in his resurrection. We should not die in a different way, even though we might have died. If we don't die like him, we cannot take part in his resurrection. This is easy and difficult at the same time. Did I die like him? How can you die like him? Like this. But it was revealed too easy. We should not think it is difficult, but if we are exposed like him, it is simple. People rather try to follow something difficult well. As the Easter Sunday comes, pastors will deliver a sermon on TV like God loved people so much in order to forgive people's sin, God became incarnated. In order to forgive people's sin, God needed blood. So God put the physical body of Jesus on himself and shed blood. So our sins were washed away. It makes sense with doctrines. As I said, God came to the world, put on physical body, and died. What a great love it is. We cannot deny that amazing words. One pastor confessed, I listened to the sermon when I was in my 4th grade year in elementary school. I was so happy to know the fact that all sins were forgiven. I was crying in my room. I thought, wow, he must be a different kind of species of man. I could not deny and I could not accept that pastor's words at the same time. I thought I can never become like that man. Even though I may die and come back to life again, there are so many peculiar kind of people in the world. People are all individual. God loved people so much, he put on physical body of man and came to the world. He shed blood for all of us, and those people who listened to that word, they turned thanks to God, crying in tears. But I could not feel that was natural, even though I have believed in Jesus all through my life. I could not become so emotional. Well, not all believers will become like me. I am too dry, and not all believers should not become so emotional like those people. Maybe that's why God provided me a unique way separately. If we have been united with him like this in his death, we'll certainly also be united with him in his resurrection. How can he die like him? Just by being crucified? Will it be all? How can he become like him? Right there, we have discovered man's destiny. Wow, this is the original man. We have discovered this. What kind of man is the original man who God first created? God created that man. What kind of man was he? To what kind of man did God say, I'm extremely joyous? If we look at people, those who are living in the world at the present time, and think about the resurrection, it's not so clear. Even though we may read the Bible, we become confused. Is this right or is that right? Maybe you have read about the resurrection of Jesus a lot. Even in the time of Jesus, some people were able to see the resurrection, and some other people were not able to see the resurrection of Jesus. Among disciples, some disciples could believe, but other disciples could not believe the resurrection of Jesus. Some disciples put fingers into the side of Jesus and believed his resurrection. He suddenly appeared and he suddenly disappeared, and he was riding the cloud and went up to heaven. How can you say he and ourselves are the same? We are entirely different people. What kind of body does he have? How could he go up to heaven riding the cloud? What kind of body does he have? How could he enter into the room even though the door was closed? Paul also said that kind of words. Many people ask Paul, what kind of body will we get when we get resurrected? That's a quite natural question. With what kind of body will we get and resurrected? That's the most curious question people would ask. But Paul answered something totally different. How can he get resurrected, and with what kind of body can we come back to the world again? Paul said, you foolish people. Well, their questions were quite natural, but he said, you foolish people. When we sow seed, we don't sow the future image. Pumpkin seed and pumpkin fruits are so different. If you sow seed of pumpkin, real pumpkin can be harvested. Paul expressed God gives us the appropriate fruits. We don't know about the whole body. We don't know all about the body. Will it be pumpkin or other fruits? But Paul said God will give you appropriate fruits. It sounds a vague answer, but it is a correct answer. How could we know with what kind of temperaments can we get resurrected? We don't know anything about God's work, but people are curious about their transformed body, about their own resurrection. After we die, we will live again. Even though we may die, there is a spirit. Even before Christianity, people believed even after we die, we can live. Even when we die, there is the spirit. In Korea, our grandpa and grandma would say, even after we die, there is a place where we will go. Even though they were not Christian people, they said that. They believed the heaven and the hell. Even before Christianity, there were such kind of belief. People would talk about the resurrection. This man talked this way, and that man talked like that. If we don't know about God's plan, there is no answer. Why did God create man? Then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. This is God's purpose of creating man. As man was appropriate to God's purpose, as man was suitable for God's image, God was extremely joyous. Man is perfect as the image of God. People don't consider themselves as image of God. They would complain, why is a man such imperfect being? Why people must die? People don't think themselves as the soil. Why can't I bear fruits? Farmer must sow the seed to the soil. Only then it can bear fruits. If the seeds are not sown, it cannot bear fruits. Why am I covered with the weeds? It is because the seed of weeds were sown. Birds sow seed, and the seeds were sown as the seed had flown through the wind. That's why weeds were grown. The seed of weeds are not in the soil originally. The term image tells us everything. This image was so good in the eyes of God. Therefore, we must learn to become satisfied and think it as glorious for the fact that we are created as God's image. If you think more than that, we'll become confused. If you try to go over that realm, we'll try to become independent. If we go over the realm of image will become independent, and independent being is imperfect. Even though a man is so strong and healthy, like a wrestler, can he deliver a baby? Even though a woman may be very strong and healthy, can she have many children? God, who had created man as his image, has a purpose that man can incarnate God. Therefore, what kind of image can come out, we don't know. If God laughs, we have to laugh also. If God cries, we have to cry. Even though the fact, can we define man as a laughing being or a crying being? We were created as God's image, that's all. We only define man as God's image, that's all. Jesus saved the life of dead Lazarus and turned the plain water into wine. If you ask Jesus, how could you save the life of dead Lazarus, and how could you turn plain water into wine? We cannot understand the true meaning hidden behind. We have to accept the hidden existence. If Jesus entered into our life, which is just like the plain water, will turn into wine. Unsettled feast house will turn into feast house full of joy. This is the issue of existence. We will accept and digest. If Jesus comes into our life, we won't have any despair in our life in any situation. We'll be able to accept the truth. We'll not interpret with the external reality, but we'll accept the existential truth. At the end, all the sermon will turn into final interpretation. If the resurrection of Jesus becomes my resurrection, even we may die, there is a hope. Then my whole life, every corner of our life will be filled with hope. If a dead person gets a resurrection, there is nothing impossible in our life. The power of resurrection will influence my whole life. On this foundation, we can have hope through resurrection. We can have experienced the power of resurrection in our daily life. I think this is a dead man gets resurrected. It's the resurrection of a dead man. We can simply know that as Jesus got resurrected, our life was resumed in a new way. What was resumed? It is a united life. Adam stayed alone and met Eve. That is the real man. If a man is staying alone, he's not a mature man. God created Eve and made them husband and wife. That is the mature man. It is true with Genesis chapter 1. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God, and he created him. Male and female, he created them. He didn't create just man nor just a woman. He created both man and woman. This is the expression suitable, the word image. We are image, but we are not independent entity. We are not the life. Whatever we may eat according to the food stuff we intake will become that very being. Adam took the fruit of good and evil. He took the essence and temperaments of Satan, so he became Satan himself. In spite of the fact, man cannot become Satan totally. Someday Satan's life will get drained and the life of God comes in, will become totally different people. I can become changed anytime. Isn't this the hope for the resurrection? God created us so that we can be changed anytime. God made a dead person can come back to life again. I'm not talking about the physical body coming back to life again, but God can save my life even though I may be standing on the position of death. I think this is possible in the union with Christ. If we have been united with him like this in his death, we'll certainly also be united with him in his resurrection. Not I, but Christ. I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. All these verses came out right here. If we have been united with him like this in his death, we'll certainly also be united with him in his resurrection. That's why Jesus said, I'm the resurrection and the life. This is the correct expression. We should not ask, with what kind of shape shall we get resurrected? But I'm the resurrection and the life. If I stay together with Jesus, if I become one with him, if I become united together with him, as Jesus says, I'm the resurrection and the life. So we too can become, I'm the resurrection and the life. Even though the quantity may be very different, but the quality will be the same. How can I follow Jesus? How can I imitate him? But as he said, I'm the resurrection and life. If I become one with him, we too can say, I'm the resurrection and life. In order that we too may live a new life. The reason that we died together with him and got resurrected with him is because we too may live a new life. New life here means married life. Before marriage, even though I might have not committed any sins, we don't have new life. But if we are married and become united together with Jesus, we'll become the new man and the new life in ourselves. Thank you. Hallelujah. May God bless every one of you. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.